Okay, I will call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. It is Monday, March the 13th, and it is 7 p.m. regardless of what our bodies say at this moment. First item on the agenda, or rather second item on the agenda, is any changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda that anyone might have. Okay. You had the fire thing.
Oh, yes. I did. Approval for fire.
Okay. Then moving right along to item number 3 on the agenda, which is our public hearing for proposed local law 3 of 2023, which is, now that I think about it, if we're having this public hearing before this,
Would it be 2? I wasn't sure if it's like what you're talking about or what you adopt.
should be in the order in which we adopted.
Then it will be 2.
So this would be local law 2 of 2023, which is a local law to override the tax levy limitations in general municipal law, section 3C, for the upcoming 2023-2024 fiscal year. And so I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing on said local law. So moved. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And so we are in our public hearing. I will quickly read what we have passed every year since this law came about in 2012, I believe. I won't read the entirety of the local law, but it'll provide some flexibility and the ability to override the tax levy limitations established by general municipal law, section 3C. This local law is adopted pursuant to subdivision 5 of general municipal law, section 3C. It expressly authorizes a local government's governing body to override the property tax cap for the upcoming fiscal year by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of 60% of said governing body. So that would be a simple majority in our case. And we are seeking to do that if necessary for the upcoming fiscal year. There's no one from the public in attendance in person. I see 2 members of the public. Actually, 3 members of the public joining us online. If Ann, Kate, or Mary have anything you'd like to comment on. And hearing no public comment, I would entertain a motion to close our public hearing on proposed local law 2 of 2023. So moved. Motion
Second.
to close.
Motion to
Second.
close.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any board discussion of proposed local law 2 of 2023? I think we've had this discussion every year. Then I would entertain a motion to adopt proposed local law 2 of 2023. So moved. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any final discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor of adopting proposed local law 2 of 2023, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And it passes. So Jessica would get that filed for us so we can pass a budget as we see fit.
Yes.
So I do have that permissive referendum, I realized, to add to the agenda. It's in the Dropbox, but it's not on the agenda,
Okay.
so maybe under new business.
That is for which?
The ventilator, the EMS ventilator.
Can just do that under your report then.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Item number 4 on the agenda is Earth Day planning with Kate Darfler joining us via Zoom.
Hi, all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
And my voice, that's 3 octaves lower than normal, thanks to COVID. So I just wanted a moment to speak with you about the Earth Day Cleanup and Earth Care Day, as we're kind of tagging it. I have Mary Bouchard here as well. She sits with me on the Ulysses Conservation and Sustainable Advisory Committee. That's kind of, they're helping me and taking charge. And so I wanted to kind of update you guys on what had been planned. I think I've spoken to almost everyone in person, maybe not you, Marcia. I haven't crossed paths with you yet. But I wanted you guys to know what was being planned and to thank you for letting us use, again, the farmers market space and the DPW lot for this event. Last year, it was a great event to like kind of kick it off and to start seeing what this village could do. And so we're kind of taking another small step forward this year. So it will be held on April 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a rain date of April 29th, because people aren't going to want to come pick up garbage in the rain. It's hopefully going to kick off with mostly the cleanup efforts. We will have bags and gloves, pickers and vests, all donated or borrowed from Hugo Lake Watershed Network and from the county, from municipal recycling and waste management. And then, so that will kind of go as we did last year. People will be able to sign up for sections of the street and they can go and pick up street. Keith has already volunteered 3 baseball teams to pick up big swaths of the street. And so they'll hopefully all be out there in uniform picking up as well. In addition to that, we'll have the dish truck there again. That was they're a zero waste service that provides reusable dishes. So we're looking for some donations of coffee and donuts to kick people off in the morning with dish truck there. We're going to again have the electric vehicles present. Rick Darfler, my father-in-law, is going to be coordinating that. So if you know of people who have EVs and they want to come show them off and check out others. Last year, people even got to like sit in and test drive the EVs. It was a great experience. I think a couple people even bought electric vehicles after that event because they felt like they were better informed to go buy an EV. And then we're also going to have people talking about pollinator supports and being bee friendly, primarily around the idea of a low mow or no mow campaign. And that is the idea of letting your grass grow a little longer, letting the dandelions actually grow, letting the clovers grow and bloom to support the pollinators that are coming out of hibernation. And a lot of the other flowers that they rely on are not yet in full bloom. And to do that, Alan Vogel is going to be making with a bunch of people some nice wooden signs to go up in your yard that say stuff like, you know, excuse the weeds feeding the bees, or, you know, I'm going low mow, or something like that, so people understand it. So we'll have those signs available. We're going to have an induction cooking demonstration done by Thaler Appliances, so people can learn about what it's like to cook on an electric stove. We're going to have Cooperative Extensions is going to be there to talk about home energy upgrades and all of the programs that are available through that. Hopefully Ben Carver will be there to talk about Arbor Day, because I've got him on my publicity materials. We're going to have people talking about composting. We'll have the powerhouse from Cooperative Extensions so people can see what it's like to talk about battery storage, on-site solar, geothermal, and air source heat pumps and stuff like that. So, and that's just what we've got already lined up. We've still got another month of inquiries out to other people looking to table. And then the event hopefully will shift from the cleanup. And after people go and clean up, they'll come back to the market space where we'll have all these tablers. We'll have people talking about all of these different activities. I've also got Luna Food Truck has agreed to come and set up at the market space from 11 to 1 p.m. They'll be working with the dish truck so people can see what it's like to use a reusable dish, where you get the dish from Luna, you scrape it into a compost bin, you put it into a waste recycle, and then Luna takes it and cleans it for us. So there hopefully is no waste, and we can talk about waste and recycling in that way. We also have some musicians who have volunteered to play live music during that kind of lunch time period as well. So it's looking like it's shaping up to be a really nice event. Got a lot of good community support. And then with that, one thing I was hoping the village would consider is supporting this low mow or no mow campaign, which entails some of the stuff that Mary will talk about, which is the fact that Ulysses is trying to be a bee-friendly city. and it's going for that designation, and they've spun up a bee-friendly committee. And so I was hoping to ask the village to look for some areas on village property that you don't need to mow, that could be left for a month to grow, to see what it supports as far as additional native plants, to see if they could be spread with, could it be a meadow flowers or something. But we can give you signs and to kind of find some areas that, you know, could be in support of this pollinator support. So maybe Mary, if you have more to say about pollinators and friendlies to bees.
Sure, Kate. I was going to talk about this as part of my representatives report, but I'd be happy to bring it up now. So the town board has passed, actually late last year, they passed a resolution to apply to become a Bee City USA affiliate, which is it's an initiative of the Xerces Society, which is a invertebrate conservation society. As part of this, we formed a bee-friendly community committee. We have 8 people on it now, and there's a couple more people that applied that haven't been officially appointed, but our meetings are open to the public, and they usually show up in Carissa's email letter, newsletter. We have 4 or 5 people that come to the meetings on a regular basis. So there's a lot of interest in this. And in fact, we will be having an event at the Presbyterian Church as part of this series of events that has happened. There was one on food insecurity and one on carbon footprint that Lanny Joyce did. So we're planning on having something in April 18th at the Presbyterian Meeting Hall. And we're going to have representatives from the Conservation Sustainability Advisory Committee that Kate mentioned, as well as the Tree Committee, maybe the Salo Drive Habitat Trail Committee, and as well as someone who lives in Trumansburg, Marissa Nolan, who is a master gardener and works for Cooperative Extension in Schuyler County. She'll be talking about creating pollinator gardens. And then on Earth Care Day, we plan to be tabling at the farmers market with information on, again, pollinator gardens and also no mow May, which is the usual term for these cutting down on the amount of mowing that you do. I mean, if your lawn is going to be 1.5 feet high, and you're going to break your lawnmower mowing it because you decided not to mow for the whole month, by all means, go ahead and mow. But it could be something like just not mowing as often, or waiting until the dandelions go to seed to mow. And then we also plan to have a presence at the Garden Club's plant sale on the 20th of May, which is the day of the duck race and the yard sale in the village. So as part of this becoming a bee city, we advocate or give people information on creating pollinator habitats on their private land, and then we also advocate for creating pollinator-friendly habitats on public land. So whether that means actually sowing seeds for pollinator gardens or just allowing the meadow to spring up, it kind of depends. So we also want to spread information on native pollinator-friendly plants and suppliers of those plants. And there's also a component of advocating the reduction of the use of harmful pesticides and advocating use of non-chemical pest management methods. So, and then also incorporating pollinator conscious practices into the comprehensive plan of the town as we head into revising our comprehensive plan. That'll be a component of that. So that's the B committee.
Great. Well, thank you both for all the info. Does anyone have any questions for Kate or Mary?
No, other than to say that, Kate, I will be there. It's on my calendar.
Awesome. You're on my flyer, so
Yay.
which
Now I feel
I will
really
be
special and
sending.
ultimate.
Yeah, no, which I will be sending to Jen, I guess, to you, so that you can put it in the village newsletter. I'll make sure you guys have it, and hopefully putting a Facebook event so we get publicity out there so people know about it.
And as part of the Arbor Day thing, I remember you talking about the gypsy moth or whatever it was, the catchers for the trees. Is that some sort of information that you could offer there too as well? Because I know there was a lot of people interested in those.
We actually have yet to decide how we're going to do that this year.
Okay.
That generally, that whole thing is fairly cyclical. So I'm hoping that it just won't be as bad
as bad as last year. Okay.
But that is actually a good point. I hadn't put that on our. We'll have something there, certainly.
Because I know there was some.
The only one.
Yeah, because I know there was some talk about maybe ordering some that might be available to people. So yeah. I was just thinking that could be a part of it too.
And I don't see any issue or any problem with Ben, if you want to talk to Dusty about if there's a spot that can do with less mowing, certainly for the month of May, I'm sure that they won't complain about having to do less mowing.
That was my thought as well. It might be an easy way into looking to be more strategic with where we do mow, because they've got a lot on their plates.
Right.
Ben Darther, I'm just looking through our zoning code. Don't we actually have, I feel like we talked about this maybe last year when I was a trustee about no mow, but don't we actually have a regulation about lawn height?
So there is actually
some amendment or something as a board.
That I don't recall, but Kate had the same question and she talked to Tom, and Kate can jump in if I get anything wrong. But what I recall is that there is like general New York State building code about kind of keeping your property in generally good standing order. I don't have a concern that this would run afoul of that. It's really about like noxious weeds and things that are more than a foot or two high kind of thing. So I don't think that that's a concern that I have.
I forget what the height restriction is. It's fairly long.
Yeah, I think it's to prevent like rodent infestation and stuff like that.
It's for really abandoned building type of situations.
Yeah.
But even regular lawns, the code would apply to it. I think it's fairly tall, but as long as Tom's okay with whatever that is, I mean, even a foot is pretty tall.
I mean, at some point, right, if you're mowing your own lawn, you're gonna have a hard time getting a mower through it if you're not, so I think this is more like, mow it maybe once or twice in the month instead of every week sort of thing. Right. Pop it up a couple levels on the mower, get it a little bit longer. That's that idea.
And that's part of what we want to do is talk to people about that, to be like, look, you want to be strategic and make a bed that's more of a pollinator that's very distinguishable from just your lawn, letting that go completely. And so like how to talk to people and inform them about those, you don't want to destroy your lawnmower by making it too high that you're going to do it. So yeah, pop it up to the highest setting and do it. A lot of those dandelions will slump right over and then pop right back up. We've all seen that where you mow the lawn and then all the dandelions pop right up above it. So as long as you're keeping it high enough that they can keep going, they'll survive it as long as you're not mowing every week, if you space it out a lot more. And so that's part of, not this is like you're saying only no mow. It's also the idea of a low mow, reducing it. Every little bit's going to help.
I will be the first to freely admit that not mowing for the entire month of May may be difficult, but
Makes you itch, doesn't it?
I will, I'm willing to entertain the effort.
Or a section of your lawn, if it's not the whole thing, right? Carve off a section that you don't need as much. You know, that can be your piece you start to see how bad does it get.
It'll be difficult for me to depart from the striping, but we'll see. Any other questions or comments for Kate or Mary on birthday planning or?
Thank you for all your
bee
work.
season?
I know it's a lot of work to put something like that together. Thank you for all your efforts, everybody.
Well, we hope to see you out there picking up garbage with us.
I will be picking up garbage.
Awesome.
And it's mostly Kate. She's really doing yeoman's work on this Earth Day thing. So thanks.
Someday it'll be taken on by others and I'll just have started it and it'll all be an easy thing. So, you know, you just start the system and then make it a regular annual thing. We'll become known as the, you know, the Earth Care Day capital of the Finger Lakes. So everyone will come to our Earth Care Day. Sounds great. All right. Thank you all. Please email me if you've got any follow-up questions.
Sounds good. Thank you both. Hope you feel better, Kate.
Thank you.
Good. So Ben, you'll talk to Dusty about where are some good spots to mow less.
Happy to do that.
Good. Okay, item number 5 on the agenda is our consent agenda. We have an abstract as well as minutes from last month's February 13th meeting. The abstract general fund totals $198,491.37. The EMS billing abstract totaling $15,938.66. Water fund totaling $14,823.45. Sewer fund totaling $15,076.85. And trust and agency totaling $46,946.50. And so I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
The motion, do I have a second? There's a second. Any questions, comments, or edits?
So the minutes, I think we should table.
Okay, what do you want to do there?
There's a few things I think
Okay.
we should connect later.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I would you like to make a
Excellent.
friendly amendment to the original motion to pull the minutes from the consent agenda?
I very much like to make that amendment.
Okay, do I have a second on that amendment?
I'll second it.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, then I'll call for a vote first on the amendment, which is to pull the meeting minutes from February the 13th from the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Is there any questions or comments now on the abstract? And hearing none, I would call for a vote on adopting the consent agenda, which currently consists of just the abstract of claims. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Moving along, item number 6 is our first public comment period. Only folks online are elected reps who are coming up next, and there's no one in person, so we'll move right along to reports of representatives. Ann or Mary, whichever one of you would like to go first. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'll be glad to go first. Thanks, Mary. We, at our last legislative meeting last week, we did a proclamation in honor of Women's History Month for March. So we dedicated, proclaimed the month in honor of Carol Kamen, who has been our county historian for 23 years. She's also retiring in the next couple of months. And let's see what else we did. One of the big things that we've been talking about is some things that are happening at the state because of the budget. One of the big things that will affect us financially at the county is if they withhold some of our Medicaid reimbursement. And so the way it stands right now with the governor's budget, we could lose $750,000 for this year's budget, which is already in progress. So we're hoping that doesn't happen. We've been lobbying and talking to the state assembly and Senate reps, and they're pushing back on that. And then if that goes into effect, also, we could lose 1.5 million next year. So anyway, that could be a huge thing that we don't know how we'd really make up those funds. As far as dealing with the city of Ithaca, we've been helping them trying to figure out how to clean up the jungle, which is I don't know if people are familiar with it, but it's the nickname for a homeless encampment that people have set up near the inlet downtown on city property. So we gave them some reimbursement for cleaning up that area. To start with, we gave them $4,500, and that's just to pay for the dumping fees for some. So you can imagine they're saying it's probably at least 10 times the amount that they are of garbage and refuge that they need to take out. So that's quite a bit of area that's damaged down there. We are working at the county on a strategic operations plan, so stay tuned for that. And one of the highlights, I think, was of the last couple of weeks, Dr. Martin Stallone from Cayuga Health came to our Health and Human Services Committee meeting, and he helped walk us through what they did. The county helped a little bit, but really Cayuga Health, along with our other healthcare systems, did a lot to help us get through COVID. So he went and did a timeline review of that, and so that's available on our YouTube page. It's really interesting. Take a look at what we've all been through the last couple of years, and just a couple little highlights on that there were almost 2 million COVID tests that were given to Tompkins County residents over the last couple of years. And the county funding paid for over 75,000 tests to people who didn't have funding. And the statistical analysis of the testing revealed that it's estimated that through all of our efforts, and it's combined efforts of everybody in the county, that we saved about 181 lives. And that's looking at what happened nationally, what happened around New York State. So we were, as we know, and I know Ben Darfler was tracking that quite well, helping us track all that. But so anyway, when you put that into numbers, that it's estimated that we saved 181 people from passing away from COVID. That's pretty astounding. And we are looking at what we've learned from that. And one of the things that we actually started to learn just by looking at what we've learned from going through COVID and working together and having, I think, better relationships with the municipalities within the county. One of the things that we learned as we're starting to look at that is we don't see any other models across the country that are looking at what have they learned through this. So it'll be interesting to figure out what we've learned, some of the lessons, what we can take and make our county stronger. And then also probably, share that with other counties in New York State and possibly around the country. So we should all, as I said, it took a whole county, a whole village. And so thanks to everybody that chipped in to do what they could and helped other people as we went through this. And that's all I had.
Any questions for Ann?
I'll just say that's really wonderful to hear that we're doing that kind of retrospective on this. It's a best practice in so many different fields, and it's impressive that we're doing it.
Thank you, Ann. Mary.
Well, I don't have too much to report on. Things have been kind of quiet at the town, but we did engage a Buffalo firm to update our computer systems when we were audited by the state controller's office. They couldn't really find very much that they could complain about our financial systems, but they thought that our IT systems were a little bit outdated, and possibly with the emphasis on cybersecurity that seems to be everywhere these days, we thought it would be a good time to update our security systems as well. So that, I'm not sure if they're actually in the office right now, but that's, if they're not, it'll be soon. The other thing that I was going to just mention was that we did pass a property tax exemption for seniors and the disabled, and also the volunteer firefighter property tax exemption. And I think the village did too as well, right? Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Yep. And then apart from the Bee City stuff we got going on, that's about all I have to report on.
Okay, any questions for Mary? Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
Gordon, can I just chime in with one last thing I remembered?
Please.
I wanted to applaud the village on all the things you're doing as far as with the biodiversity and talking about the mowing, stop mowing for the month of May. And I just want to tell you, I'm trying to do my part on my property. I have my new book, try and get it here, Nature's Best Hope, about doing conservation in your own backyard. So I'm going to work and try and do my little part also.
Great, thank you. Item number 8 on the agenda is reports from this board and the clerk and treasurer's office, starting with myself. First, I'll say welcome to Jen, newest addition to the front office. Hope the last 13 days has been okay so far. And of course, welcome to Jess moving into the village clerk's position. Look forward to seeing what both of you do with the front office. Some fun things planned. The only other thing that I'll mention for my report tonight is the firm that the town of Ulysses contracted with to do an IT services analysis. I had a phone conversation with them today. Ben Darfler, if you have available that the IT inventory spreadsheet.
I can dig that up.
If you can dig that up and send it to me, they want to take a look. I think we were all relatively impressed with their RFP that they provided to the town. So I had an initial phone conversation with them today, and they asked some questions about what our needs might be. And once we forward that along to them, they will begin working up a quote for us. It's kind of based on facilities, number of facilities, size of facilities, number of employees, and so on. So they have a municipal rate that hopefully will be acceptable, and either at the end of this month or at our April meeting, I'll have a quote from them. If we approve it, then they can do a comprehensive analysis of what our IT systems need to become fully modernized. And then we can take that report that they would generate and go from there. But first things first, if you can find that and send it my way, I'll pass it along to them. I think it's fortunate or fortuitous that Ulysses is doing this at the same time, so we can get some it sounds like they as a firm, Advanced 2000 is the name of the firm. It sounds like they're eager to work with us since they're working right across the street. So try to take advantage of that. And that's all I have for this evening, which takes us to fire and TACC.
I only have one, I was out of town for the meeting, so I wasn't able to attend that, but I did get an email from Matt. And he said that they are having trouble keeping the trucks and ambulances fully charged and some of their tools. Heavy rescue tools aren't charging correctly. So he would like approval out of the station maintenance line of operation budget for $7,000 to get that upgraded. And there's a quote that I gave you from John Mills Electric to do that. So I would like to propose that we approve the $7,000 from the operation budget for the charging upgrading the bay drop system.
When you're moving that
Yes,
motion.
Second.
And a second. Any questions?
Did you say 7?
7.
Up to. So
Mhm.
Is it not this one?
I think this was the base bid, and I
Oh,
think
nice.
there might be some leeway there, and I think that's why he's asking for 7.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second to spend up to $7,000 from fire station maintenance to upgrade the electrical system. If there are no other questions, then all in favor of approving that spending amount, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Anything else? Fire, TACC.
And, yeah, I have nothing for that.
Okay.
I think they did have a ribbon cutting for Mama Said hand ties down the street just recently, but,
Okay,
and that parking lot seems to be pretty full when I go by, so that's kind of nice.
that's good. That's good. All right, EMS, Youth and Street Tree Advisory Committee.
So. We'll start with EMS. There were 14 calls, Covert, 6 Hector, 12 Interlake, and 1 in the city of Ithaca, 6 in Mecklenburg, 1 in Ovid, 20 in the village, and 19 in the town of Ulysses. Which is a total of 79 for the month, which for a 20, 28-day month is a pretty good count. We're not back up over the hundreds though, so that's something. The other thing is the permissive referendum that I have that's in the Dropbox that Jess in particular should look at closely because I signed your name to it. So,
I will. I put it in the Dropbox, but that was before.
well, I think you put the quote in, right?
Well, yeah, did you make a referendum?
Yes, there's a quote.
Okay, great.
And then there's the referendum. The quote, this is, so I mentioned, I forget if it was 2 months ago or 1 month ago, but the RSI certification that will allow our specially trained paramedics to essentially induce medically induced coma short term. And one of the things that needs to happen in order to enable that is to have a ventilator, right? Because you're unconscious, you can't be relied on to breathe. So this is one of the critical pieces of gear. This is actually, I believe, the most expensive piece. Everything else should just come out of the normal operating budget. But you can see there's one quote. This is unfortunately a fairly specialized thing, so we couldn't find more than the one, but I would like to move that permissive referendum, which I titled, I just put it in at the beginning of the meeting. Did it show up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 8C. So I'd like to move that we approve up to $8,000 from the EMS equipment reserve, subject to permissive referendum.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Jess, I would just edit that to show Vicky and Vicky's
Okay.
name and village treasurer,
Great.
since it's coming out this month.
Okay.
That's what was there at first.
Any questions, comments on this? Hearing none, then all in favor of appropriating $8,000 from the EMS equipment reserve, subject to permissive referendum for the purchase of a ventilator, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay,
So I talked at length about that the last time, but I do want to emphasize how very, very cool and exciting that is for our department as far as becoming a regional model, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think also worth emphasizing just the kudos to Joel in particular, who has put a lot of work into this, and also an RSI steering committee. So there's a lot of people behind it. And you know, I'm always on some level impressed with the EMS department because that's the department I work with the most, but this was a very happy moment. So I'm happy to see that moving along. For the youth commission, we are still sort of going back and forth with the county and with CCE about what the contract will look like for the program manager. It's another piece that I've mentioned a number of times, so I won't go into it in detail, but it seems promising so far that CCE has at least expressed a willingness to move, to not, you know, they're not unreasonably stuck to their contract, although there's still a lot of pushback on the job description piece, just because of sort of the bureaucracy of Cornell, right? There's not a lot of wiggle room. If they change one, it changes all of the others that are in play in the rest of the county. Changes their arrangement of what their pay scale and all of these things. So we will see how that goes. It certainly feels promising at this point, though. In particular, the contract, if not the job description. And the county has done, I think, a fantastic job of facilitating those conversations. They're not totally impartial. They certainly would like us to stay with CCE, and I think we all would. Frankly, it's a much better deal financially for everyone involved, but it's definitely helpful to have them there. As far as the tree committee, thank you, Marcia, for mentioning the I almost said the spongy moth. That is, I actually hadn't had that on my list, but that is great. Our committee has taken the winter off, but we will be meeting to discuss what we'll do this coming spring. So that will be on the list. And that's all.
okay. DBW, water, sewer, CPZR, and farmers market.
Sure. And so I just, well, I'll just jump in. And I added something to Dropbox, so I put it in the wrong folder. So it's there now up around the water rates. But before I get there, just to circle back on a conversation about water metering the village buildings for water usage. I've been talking with Dusty about that. We are going to start metering the village hall. That's pretty easy. I think Tammy had mentioned last time that has in the past been metered, and we just didn't move it over to the new system. It's easy enough to move it over. So we're going to start doing that. And we'll get some insight there. In talking with Dusty about metering other village buildings, so that would be either fire and EMS building, the sewer plant, and the DPW pump house. Each one of those is significant outlay in both materials and labor to install. They're not kind of a typical residential meter because of the size of pipe that goes into those buildings. So I'm not convinced that really is worth kind of our time and effort at this point. But I did want to kind of bring that back here because I know, Marcia, you'd had some thoughts around that, but we will start with the village building.
I was just kind of curious that, I mean, they've got flow meters and everything at the sewer plant. I'm kind of surprised that the water isn't metered at the sewer plant. Anyway.
I mean, maybe in some sort of different capacity, potentially. I don't know if we could pull that out of other, kind of internal workings of the sewer plant. But this would this would be talking about actually metering from a
Yeah.
DPW meter on the intake from the
Yeah,
water
and you
there.
said those meters are pretty expensive, huh?
They're pretty expensive and they're a pain to install because it's different. It's just a different size. They need different equipment to potentially, it's kind of a big lift.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely. On the water rate, so I did have that actually, unfortunately, in the next meetings folder. So I've just moved it back to this meetings folder. I've finally kind of nailed down what I'm proposing for water rates for starting in September of this year. So this is going through with a bunch of data that Municipal Solutions pulled for us last year at some point when they did their water study. They built out a whole spreadsheet that has every account there, how much water it's using. Jess has given me information about each equivalent dwelling unit value that we've calculated now that we've got those rolled out for the capital charges. So I've been working this all together and then targeting a number for revenue based on not only what Municipal Solutions has looked at for our regular costs, as well as paying back loans, but also noticing that we owe the general fund, the water fund owes the general fund some amount, and being able to pay that back with some urgency. So anyhow, kind of putting that all together and running some numbers and some scenarios, I'm proposing that the base rate will go to $37.50. That's a 9.5% increase from where we were a while back. Sorry. Actually, I should actually look at the document that I put in there because the document's more valuable than the notes I have on the side. 1 second. Yes. So that is right. So the document I have in there is actually looks at an annual cost. The reason I did that is because we changed billing periods partway through this whole thing. So it's hard to compare kind of billing period per billing period numbers because there were 4 and now there's 6. But I will still give kind of what the actual billing period rate is. So we're looking at $37.50 for the base, $7 for each 1,000 gallons after the first one. The capital charge going from 14 to 23. And then just on the side, we have a bulk water rate that people can do for water hauling from the DPW and bumping that up from 10 to 12.50. I'm happy to kind of go into more detail about like how we're trying to get here, why these numbers, but that's kind of the rough outcome. The take home in my mind is kind of the second percentage impact in that document that I put in there. We're looking at, we said in 2013 when we kind of went down this road of a second water source that we'd hit about a doubling in rates. We're coming in a 95% increase. So we're basically where we thought we were, but we didn't go over. We're keeping an eye on that. And I think we'll have to kind of take it as it comes. There's opportunities in the way that this is structured for these rates to decrease over time as we pay back loans, but there's also likelihood that we'll take on more loans to offset those loans and continue to improve areas that need improvement in the system. So I'd hesitate to say it will go down, but we'll always be looking at, are we covering the operating costs of the water system? If we are, and we feel like there's wiggle room there, we can look at, making changes down the road.
Questions for Ben on water rates?
Anybody want water? Can we sell water to anybody? Does somebody want to buy some of our water?
Definitely a thought. I mean, on the bulk water rate, we do have some bigger haulers of water. Another thing that I'm not quite sure there's parts of the water use for grassroots in the fair that we're also starting to add some cost to, more on the like hookup and monitoring that we're required to do by the health department. But we are looking for places. We're looking for places to make back time and costs from the system and from the DPW.
There are 2 conversations I've had, which are far too early to count on anything. But I have had conversations with the town of Ulysses about them potentially looking to the village for water sourcing at the very southern end. Well, I'm sorry, the very northern end of the town at the southern end of the village. And then I also had a phone conversation a couple of weeks ago with some folks at MRB who are doing a countywide water needs study for Seneca County. Because they have substantial water needs in their southern end and everything is very expensive. So individual municipalities at the southern end of the county are slow to move or are forced to move slowly on their water needs. So the county as a whole is looking at their needs. And MRB wanted to know whether we had capacity to supply, and I forget the number, but it was somewhere in the 30 to 40,000 gallon a day range. So, you know, a drop, no pun intended, a drop in the bucket compared to what we can pump. So I did indicate that we would have the capacity to take that on if someone else wants to put the pipe in the ground. So we'll see how that goes over the coming years, but we are the only source of water on the west side of Cuba Lake that has excess capacity. So I think that at some point we'll see some movement on that.
I'll just say one last thing and then Ben, you can jump in. Looking at the charts, one thing that does probably jump out is the increase in the dollar per gallon or per 1,000 gallons rate is definitely the largest jump out of all of these. And that is kind of twofold. The real reason there is that that's actually the cost it takes to pump the water. Like we're kind of making sure that the costs spread across the actual, you know, electricity to pump the pumps and that sort of a thing is actually on that rate. And the cost of general maintenance for the whole system and kind of general, you know, even if we didn't pump a gallon of water sorts of things, that is going on the base rate. So we're trying to make the dollars line up with where they're allocated. It also does happen to increase that usage rate, which is something we were talking about with the trying to incentivize people to be cognizant and cautious about how they're using water. It is a limited resource at some level. And so I think it kind of works in with that. And that's why I wasn't curious anymore about this kind of conservation pricing sort of idea. I think it actually naturally comes out of the way that it just is structured based on actually how the cost structure of the whole system works.
So I was just going to ask
So it
if
is.
you could say a word or two about the capital charge not going up for outside users. Is there a thought behind that?
I've struggled with this. So this is how municipal solutions initially calculated the capital charge. And I had the same kind of eyebrow raise, and they assured me that that was their intention. And I didn't really go too much further than that. We could have that conversation for sure. It would be a little more consistent to have everything 1.5 times the rate. I'd have to go back and rejigger the numbers a little bit to figure out exactly what the right number is there, but I'm happy to do that if that's interesting to us. But currently, that is also currently how it is. But I suppose it in some ways doesn't really matter if the dollars are going to change, they're going to change one way or another.
It makes some sense that we own the system, but I don't know.
We would have to double check, Ben. There's something in the back of my mind from one of the early emails from Municipal Solutions, something about state law requiring capital infrastructure to be borne equally by all users.
Okay.
I think there's some wonky language in there which is why they wanted to break the capital charge out, so that our user charges can be whatever we want them to be essentially, but that the capital charges are fixed. We'd have to just go back and double check that piece.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them. I'll take a note to just reach out and ask them that part specifically, or if it's not that, if they have another deeper reason as to why they suggested this initially.
Yeah, I mean, it's more a curiosity than anything else.
Yeah, no, it stood out to me as well. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little hesitant to put even more outside of the village, just because I know how expensive things are getting already. Like we're kind of increasing everything everywhere. And at some point I start to have compassion for everybody in the equation. But it did jump out to me as well. So I'll follow up with Municipal Solutions and see what they come back with.
Any other questions for Ben on water?
I do have one last fun part, not about water rates, but before I'm done with the rest of us, we we're granted a $30,000 grant for an engineering report for the Gregg Street Bridge bank erosion. So that's a very nice win for us. MRB is going to get back to us on kind of what that actually means and where the next steps are and that sort of a thing. But they were quick to send us that information last week, and that was great to see that moving forward. And we'll start to really dig into how do we address the long-term issues on that stream bank there.
Ben, I think we should, I know it's somewhere on your long laundry list, but I think we should come up with a June newsletter.
Yes.
And I think we should have a fairly not overly dense in number terms, but a fairly comprehensive explanation of water rates relative to where we started and where we are coming September.
Yep. No, we have some good existing copy around that anyhow, and it'd be good to refresh it and make it clear where we're going.
As everyone is aware, county assessments went up again this year to the tune of 10 or 11%, which won't hit. So June 1, our budget is based off of last year's assessments. Next year's budget will be based off of these new assessments. But that basically means every year, even if our property tax rate remains flat, the property tax bills will be slightly higher. So that's June, and then September, those residents will see an increase in the water side of things. So be good just to lay everything out.
Yeah, we might have more insight in the sewer piece as well at that point, which I anticipate being less of a large jump. But if we have it, it'll be good to add that as well.
Okay. Anything on CPZR or farmers market?
Sorry. Yes. Oh, right. CBZR. I skipped over that part completely. I even have my notes here. So CBZR, quick update there is for the short-term rentals. We have a draft law kind of in the works, aiming to get that signed off from everyone in the committee next week at our meeting, and then send it along to Guy. The way we're doing this right now is the committee kind of came together with a very high level, like, what are we looking for sort of list of ideas. And then we started with something from a draft law from Lansing that Guy had a hand in, and pared it down significantly, and going to go forward with that. And Guy has taken a look at the early kind of like bullet point ideas of where the committee wants to go, and said it seemed potentially workable. So we'll start kind of working through that. The real focus is just ensuring safety of the actual short-term rentals and anyone renting there. And then just collecting data on what's in the village and being able to have that as a point of reference and discussion for anything that might happen in the future. But this is going to be very lightweight, like a permit, some sort of lightweight inspection, basically based on Tom's, judgment. And then just enough information to basically let us as a board keep an eye on things. And if something were to get out of hand, we'd have the data in front of us that we could make decisions based on. So my hope is that, that's something that this board is interested in. I'll get a draft, for this board kind of maybe in parallel with Guy's review, or kind of right as after that. So we'll kind of keep working through that. But over the next month or two, I'd imagine we'd start looking at something like that. And with that pretty wrapped up, I think after this meeting, the committee is going to start moving back towards commercial zoning and looking at those sections, commercial industrial sections. So basically the areas outside of the residential zones. And nothing for farmers market.
Okay. Any questions for Ben? Police, trustee Hannon is excused for the evening, so we don't have a police report, which takes us to the treasurer's office.
So the treasurer's office being covered currently by 3 individuals, 2 of whom are present. I think the major business there for you to just be aware is that we are deepen the progress of transition so that Vicky Valenti can retire. Which has been great and is moving right along. And so we do, I think, primarily there need to set the public hearing for the budget, which needs to happen in April, unless you want to do it at the end of March, but I don't think you have to, right?
Nope. So we will set the public hearing for our draft budget as we do every year at our annual organizational meeting, which is Monday, April the 10th. So we'll just need to get that noticed.
Yeah.
Along with the Williamson version of the draft budget.
Yeah.
Not the spreadsheet version.
Okay. And I actually haven't heard from the bank in terms of moving along with the account signatures, but you were able to get those located and signed. Okay, so I'll check in.
I signed the last of them this morning, I think.
Oh, this morning, okay,
I think it was the last of them.
Yeah, it's
13.
It's like 14.
You getting them though is confirmation that I
That you
finished,
did
which
it.
is nice, because otherwise I have no idea. And they're all the way they fold and stack is like, oh.
Okay, so that's good. Does anyone have any questions about what's happening in the treasurer's desk? Okay.
Okay. Then clerk's office.
So what's happening in the clerk's office is also covered by two individuals, both of them are here. So we are actually have a little bit of stuff I wanted to say, primarily that we filed the first law of 2023, local law number 1, which referred to the tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers. And is it with the state? I'm pretty excited about that. Jen got a little happy with me. Clint and Denman, who delivered the certified letter to the post office, less excited, but played his part. So that was really great. I wanted everyone to know, especially Trustee Darper, that we're meeting all of the filing deadlines for the sewer law. So the Tompkins County Planning Department has been made aware with their form number, something like 329. They received it and I'll get an official email or notice that they've got it and it's okay to proceed, but we're all within that April deadline for hearing at the meeting. And then.
Sorry, was
just
that for zoning or for sewer?
the sewer?
Okay,
Am I saying the wrong thing? I am. Apologies.
I
Zoning.
think you mean zoning. Yes. Yep.
I meant zoning. Sorry, I meant zoning. I wanted to say that we are.
We have too many laws happening.
Sorry, and we're hearing back about. For the people who are not concerned about that, I've only heard from 2 agencies right now that we're okay to be lead agent for that Hector, and I can't recall the other one. So collecting all of that and staying on top of it. They still have something like 2 more weeks, I think, to comment on that. Just to let you know that Jen now at day number 13, she is fully processing the water payments on her own, which is a nice oversight, and then Vicky and I overseeing them before they get deposited. But I think moving right along and feeling comfortable in Williamson. She oversaw and shadowed her first payroll processing today, which actually included some fun additional checks and amendments and the things that can be quirky and checking time cards. And the intention is that next payroll, I'll shadow her and feeling comfortable in that platform. And then we'll move on to learning how to do tax searches, which is a similar program to Williamson, but there's a training plan we're following and I think it's working. Well, I let her comment once a day. She hasn't. I asked, do you have anything to ask as I walk out the door? She never does. Did you want to say anything about?
No, I mean, it's been really interesting to see the interactions operates here, and Justin's been doing a great job of training me, but also then stepping back and letting me, work through it, so.
Cool, we'll carry on then.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We're also moving forward with some color samples for paint and carpet. For the village
Lovely.
offices. Yes, and so then there's a bit of business, but I guess I wait. Oh, no, there's one thing I would like for the board to please address, and Gordon, I don't know, I'm sure you introduced it, but there's a resolution to assign a street address for
So
tax parcel.
did county assessment or anyone else require owners' names?
No, did I not include it?
Did, and I'm actually thinking I want to pull it as I read it.
No, this was just a resolution that I got from another municipality. This is how they do it, but it can be pulled and it's not required. As far as I know, triple check that.
Was there anything before we get to this?
Nope.
So I'll just read the resolution and you can amend it
Okay.
before we publish it. So the property owner of tax parcel number 2.-3-3 requires a street address and would like to designate the use of the property as 76 East Seneca Road, Trumansburg, New York, 14886. I don't know that I've done one of these in a long time. Whereas, so the resolution reads, whereas the Tompkins County Department of Emergency Response oversees emergency dispatch and communication systems that allow residents to call 911, and whereas 911 is the number to report a police, fire, or medical emergency that requires the immediate presence of police officers, firefighters, or emergency medical personnel. And whereas new address designations are approved by a municipality's governing body. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees authorizes and approves the designated address of 76 East Seneca Road, Trumansburg, New York, 14886 for tax parcel number 2.-3-3. And I would entertain a motion to move that as read. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Like to commend you on saying 2.-. Very
I-
smooth.
Is this
It's like Morse
the
code.
new build? Is this what?
Yes.
Okay,
Currently vacant land.
okay, gotcha.
I don't remember doing one of these for my parents' house, which is interesting.
Hey,
Hopefully that's their fine.
2023.
Oh, we got another one for my
I
neighbor.
think the lot may have already had a number.
They definitely requested that specific number.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought it happened through the post office. That was my memory.
I'm pretty sure they asked Tammy, but I don't know as if we had a resolution.
Go back and find out.
So this will now be, if it passes, then it gets sent to the post office and it gets sent to the county assessment.
Yes.
That's-
Can we resolve to spell El Dorado right properly? Sorry, this is getting way off track.
No, 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 no.
Any other questions or
problem.
comments on this resolution? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Anything else from the clerk's office?
No, sir.
I do have one question because we did mention sewer and that reminded me, we do actually have the sewer hearing next meeting. Are we good for that with notices and? such?
Yes, we are well noticed. The one thing that I owe you that I wish had happened last week, but it's still enough time. Tomorrow, the grease trap letters will go out, just which had in there reminding everyone that the sewer,
Yes.
the hearing would be happening, but people have heard about it at the State of the Union. It was published about a month ago. It's been up on newsletters on the website.
Thank you.
Super, yes. Oh, did I mention, I guess it was sort of, sorry, Jen is taking over doing the weekly newsletter. She's done a fantastic job. So we saw an improvement when I came in and then like leaps and bounds, like the Grinch's heart just grew 10 sizes extra big when Jen took over. So please remember to send her your updates and anyone you might be in a consultation with that pertains to village activities, to send them to Jen.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any items of old business? Under new business, we have code enforcement law updates.
Yes, so this is I think everyone should have seen an email from Tom mentioning that there have been some code updates at the state level, and that we were actually meant to have adopted a local law by the end of last year to update our code enforcement locally that kind of reflects the state's new requirements. There is a very wordy PDF in the Dropbox now, once I've moved it again to the right folder, talking a little bit more about this. Long story short, there is a model local law. My impression from Tom is that guy thinks it's workable, though I'd like to hear that from him directly. What I wanted to bring up here is, I think just to make sure we're all on the same page that this seems reasonable to move forward with, and I'd be happy to reach out to Guy and ask him for his recommendation on where to go next. I'm assuming it's probably adopting something like the model law after Guy takes a peek at it. But I just wanted to kind of have the conversation here before kind of moving on that.
Yeah, I was CC'd on an email from Guy about it a week or two ago. So if you want to go ahead and take the lead on that, that'd be, I mean,
Sure.
you can or I can.
I'm happy to. I talk with Guy enough. Probably should not want to for that reason, but there you go.
It does dovetail with CPZR closely enough that I think
That's kind of where my head was at. It felt similar in that bucket. If there's anything that we need to do more than just kind of have Guy look over the model law, I think that'd probably end up chatting with the CPZR at least.
right. I mean, state code supersedes anyway, so it's not like there's going to be a huge change. Tom is operating under state code anyway, but just to bring everything in line, I think keeps everything clean.
Right. And I haven't dug too deeply into it. My impression, this is mostly around enforcement. So it's not that it's changing what code is being enforced, but how we actually enforce it. And I know that's an area that Tom has mentioned a couple of times in CPZR. And he mentioned that Guy has mentioned it to him too, that we lack reasonable enforcement in places. So someone could be out of, compliance, but we have a hard time actually forcing their hand in any meaningful way. So I think this will be helpful broadly, and then also just because it's now a requirement for us.
Okay. Good. The other item of new business we have is, speaking of prices going up, Casella has given us updated pricing for the current calendar year, which is a 1-year service contract. We have not gone out to bid in a while. I'm not actually sure who we would go out to bid to at the moment, since Casella purchased the last company that we contracted with.
Did they purchase alternatives?
So the highlights are that trash tag pricing is going up from $10 a sheet to $13 a sheet. And individual dumpster prices are going up somewhat. Give the total contract price, Jess.
No, those are all the documents I have. I'm happy to go back and ask for more things that I need.
There is usually total contract price. See if I can find it real quick. Yeah.
Looks to me like they just didn't put it out.
Yeah. It's a little bit. It'll be great to go to bid next year.
I think we need. I know dumping fees are.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's our invoice systems that they.
Alternative ways, yeah.
That's what you said, yeah. And there's no numbers in the emails that I had forwarded. Either. I have a cell phone call right now.
Wonder how that would feel. Receive that call in the evening. On board in a public meeting.
Only 8:16.
Right before the state of emergency closure of the state.
Give me a second. Let me see if I can find refuse and garbage control. Yeah, so why don't you give them a call tomorrow? Currently, I think last year's budget was for 13,000. was a contract price for the village. Unless this 2023 trash pricing is missing a 1, in which case there would be 13,550, which is not a huge increase for us, for the village.
That's what I was
Ask what
wondering.
the total contract number
Total
is.
contract price from the village to Casella.
Okay,
And so I will just table this new business item until our next meeting,
okay,
end of the month,
okay.
once they've provided that.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat, I can look, but the prior year number was
13,000.
Be curious to hear how they decide what price the sheet is versus what we pay, like as a village. I've always been curious, like it seems like that's a sliding scale, right? It's kind of like water. There's a fixed base rate and then like a per use thing. And if they have any insight in that, I'd be interested in hearing that.
You want to know how they price the trash tags?
Yeah, trash tags versus the flat fee that we pay, right? So in this bill here, it's 35.50 flat and then 13 per sheet. Why
Okay,
isn't it not 15 per sheet and 3,000 or the other way around
Sure.
or something?
okay.
Okay. Any other items of new business? Item number 11 is our second public comment period. I see Anne remains online. And anything additional you wanted to add? If she can hear me.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ann. Do we have need of an executive session?
Wow.
That's the only explanation for this.
If not, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Yes,
Yeah.
everybody.
There are no objections. We will stand adjourned. Ben, hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yes.
See y'all.
I hope she feels
And
better
to Kate
too.
too.
Mostly for Kate at this point. Yes. All right.